More music. Better mental health. Only on IPL Radio.
Okay, we're on now. Hello. Don't know if I can hear myself. I can hear myself now. Great. Hi, welcome to Tea Time. Lana did introduce us before, but we're in Tea Time now. We're having interviews, and it's so very fun. I'm Georgia, by the way. I'm here with Ali.
Hey, everybody.
Hello,
it's
Ali.
good to know who you are. Sometimes I look at you and I don't know.
You don't know who
No,
I
because
am.
you're a chameleon. You're full of looks.
Full of looks. Jazz hands.
It's great, but I like what this is. Is this your fabulous thing for the evening?
It's my fabulous thing for the
It's
evening.
pretty good.
It's warm and fluffy,
Pretty
and
good.
I
I love
enjoy
it.
it.
It's
Pet
very
me, pet
wintry.
me.
If you don't know, by the way, no, I can't do that. It is winter over here in
It
sunny
is. I hate it.
Rockingham, in the most remote capital city of the planet, on the planet. Is that a myth or is that a real thing?
I have no idea.
That's a real thing. But this, I can't touch this.
No?
No, because apparently I'm allergic to wool.
I don't know if this is wool or not, to be honest.
Oh, good. That's all right. Then.
It's
No,
just
synthetic
on my
for
body.
me, baby. That's what I want. Just
It's Georgia.
man-made petroleum products all the way. That's what I want. Anyway, natural fibers. Ew. They just send shivers up my spine and make me feel itchy for some reason. Like I don't break out in hives or anything. I'm not going to be gross. It's just I can't wear like woolen jumpers and feel comfortable like most people do. It's not like, yes, wool. Oh, I feel so, I want to hold a cup of soup with two hands and just milk it. I can't do that. No, everything feels
No, you have soup right here.
scratchy for me. So winter is a sad time. Sad boy vibes. Now, everybody, yes, welcome to Tea Time. Hi, everybody. Good to have you. And we have someone else with us here tonight. We have Hayden. Hayden, hi. Welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
Do you want to introduce yourself properly? You're here representing a company, startup, which is a not-for-profit called VR for Good, and we want to hear all about it.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Yes, my name's Hayden Brown. I am a school teacher and have been in Western Australia for the past 14 years. I decided to do something different with my COVID lockdown time, and I started a non-for-profit VR company with a friend of mine that owns a commercial platform on the East Coast.
Well, that helps.
Yes.
How did you meet them? I'm always interested in how partnerships get together, and whether that is romantic partnerships or business partnerships or whatever. I mean, the origin story of a lot of partnerships is often interesting in its own right.
It's interesting that you say origin story because I was actually talking to Kingston on the phone today.
Kingston?
Yes.
That's
I
a
know.
swell name.
It's a very
That's going on my list. Georgia, bring up the list of my potential child names.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kingston.
Kingston's
Put it
going on
the
there.
list. Yeah.
It's a mental list. I don't know where
quite
to write it down.
agent-esque.
It is.
Agent
Yeah.
Kingston.
Yeah, I like it.
He said, "What are you actually doing today on the radio?" I'm like, "I'm actually putting down on record the origin story of VR for Good."
Yeah, I'm doing something to help promote the business. What are you doing today?
Yeah. That's another story in itself.
Oh, let's
Yeah.
get to that, because we do the whole premise is, I don't know if you call it the double entendre. It is also here, not in America where most of our listeners are, but here it's time for tea, right? It's 6 p.m. It's when we're supposed to be having dinner, which we're keeping you from. I understand. Thank you. Your stomach must be rumbling. But, we like to spill the tea. I don't know if you're familiar with the lingo. You must be, right?
As a school teacher,
Yeah.
I get the gossip probably a year and a half before most people my age.
Yeah.
So I actually use slang appropriately.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah, not in a cringe sort of way.
Oh, God.
Cringe
Yeah.
sort of way.
Yeah. All right, please. Sorry, go on, continue.
So I came to VR through education, and I came to VR through the concept of teaching using storytelling. I used to and spent most of my time teaching in the far north of WA.
Oh, really? That's my country.
So we were just about talking about how remote Perth and surrounds were. Well, I taught in a place that makes this seem very urban. So
Name names, please.
So I started teaching, and I was teaching until 2018 in Broome.
Broome.
Fantastic place, super remote, a little enclave of culture and quirkiness.
Oh, yes.
In the middle of amazing country. But
Amazing.
but there's no urban centres there.
The vividness of the red surprises everybody when they first get there, right? Like you see it in postcards, the red dirt, the blue sea and whatever, and you think, oh yeah, that's been photoshopped. Like they've upped the saturation. Not really.
No, not at all.
It's a beautiful country.
Well, I expected the red because I had been to Kalgoorlie and I'd been to other places, but
Okay.
I didn't expect how close the red got to the blue.
To the blue.
It's very close.
It's
of the ocean.
totally bizarre.
Yeah.
Yes, but please, if you're ever over in this stark, beautiful country of ours, try Broome, because quirky doesn't quite cut it,
No,
even does
it's
it.
super unique.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's a one of a kind place.
Yeah,
It's got an amazing mix of.
hippies.
It's got those colonial influences. It's got the modern influences. It's got
Traditional.
all of the traditional, rich
Yeah.
Aboriginal culture and history mixed with.
Oh, and
lot
the
of-
tourists.
A lot of really modern stuff. Oh, and grey nomads. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I was living in Broome back when, the pre-COVID times when Broome would swell to 45,000 people during the dry season.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had like 3 roundabouts down.
when did they get McDonald's?
Oh, the McDonald's was always there.
Okay, no, because that was the thing when I grew up. They got McDonald's just after I moved
Yeah.
from the red dirt country down to this nonsense. And there was a parade. The town
was the
got
deal.
their first set of traffic lights.
Yeah.
That was a parade. Yeah. So how are the kids in Broome compared to here?
Obviously, they're less affected by the happenings of an urban centre.
Mm-hmm.
I knew every single kid in town. Like, every single kid also worked in every single shop that I ever went to.
Of course.
So they knew what was in my pantry.
Because
Like, quite literally. Every time I went to the bottle shop, they knew what brand of wine that I drank, what type of beer that I drank.
Mr. Brown bottle bag.
They knew my hobbies.
Yeah.
They knew I wasn't very good at fishing. Like, all of these things, there's no secrets. That is the beauty and the curse of a small country town,
And I
is there
suppose-
are no secrets.
That kind of helps, maybe, because if you're in
Well, I
their
also-
pocket, then perhaps you're in theirs
Of course,
a little
I
bit.
knew all of their parents.
Yeah.
Very intimately. Like, this parent night was a barbecue
catch-up.
at the school.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
It was a real thing. And that was one of the things I learnt very quickly at Broome was the fact that you can't take yourself too seriously. You've got to be a person.
Good lesson for any teacher, I think.
100%.
Yeah, because if you
Um,
take yourself seriously, the kids are going to tear you apart,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And you've also got to, you have to get to know them. My principal, first thing he said to me is, kids don't learn from people who they don't like. You have to have that connection. And the best way to understanding and liking a kid is to find out about where they're from and what they're about. I mean, I started off doing that by posting a picture of the first and only fish that I caught on my screensaver, so it got projected on the whiteboard. And then next thing you know, we're talking about their world.
How big was it?
Oh, it was like 1 meter.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a very large fish.
That's starting to sound endangered.
No, it was like a
Common.
mile away.
Okay,
it
good,
was,
good.
Yeah, it's Broome.
Fine.
This was 60 meters off the beach. It
Amazing
was
place. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, amazing
Yeah.
place. So I'd been teaching there for a little while, and I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to teach the academic extension program. So 2015, schools in WA still didn't have 7th graders in high school.
No, that's right. We transitioned.
We were one of the only places
Big change.
in the world that had that phenomenon still, because year 7s were babies and they needed to be in primary school, whatever it was. WA was one of the things we were not doing the same. It was going to align together across the country, and WA was going to have a double intake year in 2015. So the school very rightly was concerned because the parents were concerned. What happens in Perth when you're not happy with the school is you drive your kid 15 minutes in a different direction.
Yeah.
What happens in Broome when you don't like the school is you either put them in a boarding school 2,500 kilometres away,
I hear good things.
or you all leave town. So
Yeah.
it was a massive priority to retain the good, academically, not necessarily gifted,
But in
But-
tune or yeah.
aspirational,
Sure.
academically aspirational families. So I got to go and do some sample PDs, and I happened to meet an amazing man by the name of Professor David Christian. Now, he is from Macquarie University in Sydney. He developed this program called the Big History Project.
Oh.
This is the history of the universe as a humanities program.
Yeah. I've heard of this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm the lead teacher in Western Australia for that project.
No kidding.
I've been working with Big History since 2015.
Wow.
It's phenomenal because
is the
what it
website
is,
just bighistory.com?
It's actually oerproject.com because there's actually other courses that have been developed since 2015. So
OER. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I've pretty much piloted every course that they've done since then because they're all just amazing. But that doesn't have VR in it. It's a humanities program that's kind of got a bit of a core of literacy, and if you look at the general capabilities in education, they're all in there. It's just great. If you want to knock down the silos in education, which in theory we all would love to do, that's the course to do it. And it's got all these amazing literacy and science, and it's great. And perfect for an academic extension program because you're not excluding the arty kids, you're not excluding the sciencey or technological kids.
No.
You're giving everybody a chance to excel in their own way
Yeah.
in the one course.
The thing that they're good at, what they're interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the principal said, look, maybe we should tack an excursion onto this. I went, cool, great idea.
Yeah.
Let's do this excursion where we go down to Perth and we go to the Gingin Observatory. And
No way.
yeah. And then the principal goes, maybe just think a bit better. Come back and just think of what you would want to do. So I had been married 3 years earlier, and we went to Japan on our honeymoon, so I came back with a Japanese trip. So that was the extension program trip for my year sevens, and in the first year, so year sevens and eights, we went to Japan for 10 days. So we
On your
learned-
honeymoon?
No.
Okay.
I only got married the once.
Okay.
Yeah. So I used my knowledge of that and my love of Japan and incorporated that. I figured what's more different than a country town with no traffic lights?
Yeah.
You've got Japan, which actually has held on to its culture quite well.
Oh, they're
So-
super proud of it too.
Right?
Yeah.
And so Broome has held on to its culture quite well. So if you go, okay, it shows possibilities for the future. So we learnt about the history of the universe. Then they actually went to somewhere that has got all of this modernisation. Then they came back and made predictions about the future. And that was their academic extension program.
One day Broome will have trains that don't run on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
diesel
don't
or
full
whatever.
of iron ore, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really successful. I had a great time doing that. And I developed that over a course of a couple of years. And kids and parents were actually demanding a second course in year 8 to keep them going.
Oh, I can imagine the furor.
So meanwhile, I'm going over to Seattle to work with Gates Foundation, who developed Big History. I missed that bit out.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so
you did
we
that.
had gone from Professor Christian made this as one of those online. It used to be called MOOCs back in
is
the
good.
day, like a massively open online course. So Bill Gates doing what Bill Gates does, did one of these courses on his treadmill, went, this is bloody good, and I think I'll have it. So he actually contacted Professor Christian, and they actually made it into a free course for everyone around the world.
That's stunning.
Which, inspirational stuff. I mean, that is actually something to this day that inspires me.
Yeah.
Because it inspired a whole load of my kids and gave them opportunities that they never would have had. Plus, I think I'm the only teacher in Broome's history, maybe West Australian history, that got a PD, professional development, paid for me to go to Sydney to do that training.
Oh, that's unheard of.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, budgets were better back in 2015, but still, it's, yeah. So
Yeah.
I was teaching that But then Big History picked me up as a lead teacher. They contacted me and said, how would you like to come over to Seattle and do some training with us every year? And I'm like, well, of course.
Of course,
Like-
because
Yeah.
Seattle.
The bar is very, very high. I mean, the bar to be part of the cohort in Australia is not as high as it is in America. Because to be a teacher and to stand out in America, there's people over there that do some incredible things. Lots of them have their PhDs, lots of them have their masters, some of them are Harvard graduates, some of them have got... I mean, one of the teachers in the first cohort with me had received some presidential award for their absolute amazing brilliance. And here's me going, well, I do a little thing with some kids up in Broome. Anyway, so teaching...
It would make you feel humble, but
Yes. Well, there was actually a researcher there from one of the universities in the States, and I was talking about how I kind of felt average, and then he made a Hawkeye analogy, which has stuck with me. He's saying, look, if you're in the Avengers, it's okay to be Hawkeye. I'm like, wait,
yes,
I don't have any superpowers.
that
Okay,
says,
But you're helping.
that says exactly what I wanted to, and I couldn't find the words. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's okay to be Hawkeye. I want that on a T-shirt. It's okay, man.
You know,
We're
Yeah.
here for you.
But then again, if Hawkeye and Batman are in a room and neither of them have superpowers,
Batman would win, though. He has the money.
anyway, money bring
you know.
money.
Anyway,
Money.
this is all my personal origin story before virtual reality ever came into it.
Yeah.
This second academic extension trip that led me to from Big History to VR. So I'd met lots of friends in the States and would tell them about my amazing, isolated country town in WA that no one had ever heard of. They asked me if I constantly went down the road to see my friend in Brisbane. I'm like, we used to do, but now there's a rock in the road.
Yeah, it's big. It's changed its name.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't go over it. Have to go around it.
Yes, you do. Unless you're
Yeah.
she who shall not be named.
Yes.
Yes.
So I told them about my place and they wanted to see in person. So I told them about Broome having the world's largest dinosaur highway,
Oh,
the
yes.
fossilized dinosaur
Yeah.
footprints that go for several hundred kilometers,
Yeah.
which is absolutely incredible. But the fact that it goes through a walkway which is actually used traditionally for their traditional owners as their rite of passage.
Yeah, it's a bit spooky, isn't it?
It's like, so you've got
Yeah.
this layer of science and culture, which is so Big History.
Yeah, it's kind
So
of
I'm
like when
like-
you find a toddler and they know something that you think you haven't picked that up from watching ABC Kids. How do you know that? You're too smart being so small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a small idea, but it's actually massive.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I was inspired. I'm like, I want to make this into like something immersive. So my American colleagues can understand it, and I can take kids on this trip, and their parents can understand it. So I had this massive goal to do this thing that I thought was achievable. Turns out it wasn't achievable.
Oh.
So I was, I put in a proposal to present about this at EduTech in Melbourne at
Okay.
an education conference. And I had all of these big ideas about getting a VR camera filming company and walking the trail and animating 3D dinosaurs and all of these things that I didn't know weren't necessarily possible and no one was going to allow me to do.
Well, not in 2018.
No. However, I did meet Kingston, who was at a booth with his startup company VRTY, Virtual Reality to You. And I was talking about these big ideas, and he's like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from here." He's like, "Really? Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to be speaking up there in a minute because I'm doing blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. We should stay in touch."
And was he impressed?
Yeah, he thought
I
it
should
was.
think so.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
obviously, what do you expect? You don't expect that, I guess.
Did you ask him why it wasn't VR2U instead of VRTY? Was VR2U taken?
I guess VRTY is a pretty good acronym.
Verti?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I can take that.
VRTY, Virtual Reality to You.
Verti. Yep.
Yeah, so it just kind of it could be VRT to You, I guess.
Vert.
But
No, I like Verti better. That's much better. You're right. He's thought this through.
Yeah.
Good. So a good guy to be in
Well,
touch
he's
with.
also got a digital marketing background, so yeah, his head's
Yeah, he's
his
thought
head
about
is
it.
very screwed on.
Excellent.
So I saw his platform, and I guess I didn't grasp at the time how powerful it was, because it's not a professional platform for professional filmmakers. It's for kids to make projects themselves that are immersive.
Well, I mean, if you look at the popularity, the productivity in something like Roblox, for example, or Minecraft, I mean, the projects that kids,
Yeah.
given the toolkit
Yeah.
and the time and the space and encouragement
Yeah.
to do it, they can make industries, before they even start tertiary education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was a little bit lost on me at the time, because I didn't realize how gamified the VR industry is.
Everything.
So 99% of the technology used in VR is based on the gaming industry, both from a hardware point of view, a software point of view, and a philosophical point of view.
Yeah, I think it goes from like gaming, then porn, then medicine.
Yes, definitely all the right. The
Yeah.
orders can be interchangeable. So, by philosophical, I mean it's all based on entertainment, not creativity, and it's all based on end user, not actually the back end, which is where the creativity is. So, if you think about what's important in education, you think about skills. You think about student agency. You think about the ability to share stories and for them actually to be part of that productive process.
Do you think?
VR doesn't actually do anything. In the essence that it actually lives in the education system at the moment, it's the same as the entertainment world. If you think about it from an older person's point of view, at the end of term or at the end of a body of work, traditionally teachers can put on a movie or they have a documentary as a form of stimulus to tie into what you've done in that body of work.
No, it was Dunstan checks in for us.
Look,
Yeah.
as a humanities teacher, movie studies towards the end of term are a thing. You know, and in English, they're a text and it's to be used. So that's, VR pretty much is the same thing. You put the goggles on their head, they see it, and then they take it off, and then they do some work. Whereas with Verti, the platform itself actually allows the project to be work. The VR is work. The watching it is their own work.
And then there's an element of kids teaching kids, right?
100% the best
Yeah.
way to go. And kids now, at this actual point, teaching teachers.
Right.
Because they pick it up way quicker.
I had an ex who was in university doing digital design and marketing and game design things years and years ago before it became cool. And he found his professor didn't know enough to teach the subject because it was just in its infancy, you know what I
changes too
mean?
much.
And that's,
Yeah.
he was at the cusp of that kind of, we have to teach our teacher thing. And I guess I'm just wondering, maybe he was super clever and just playing dumb. Like, I don't know anything. You guys have to teach me.
Quite possibly not.
Possibly
Quite
not,
possibly he was smart enough to realise that it's changing that quickly.
no.
So
He who knows everything knows that he
No,
doesn't know anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Luckily, I come from the background where since 2015 I've been teaching the history of the universe. Billions of years of human history, the human story of us, which is a scientific origin story of everything that's ever existed.
Epic.
I don't know 1% of the humanities portion of that story, not including all the super hard science that's in there as well.
Yeah.
But I can teach kids how to find answers.
And let's
And I
not
can
forget,
teach them to be fearless about going to look.
there is a space in there. Let's not forget those artistic kids. Because
100%.
especially with such immersive medium. It's not even just a visual medium anymore. It's, as you say, an immersive
Yeah.
medium. So there's sound design, there's all the creative arts involved in creating an experience in which this information is communicated between people. So you need those humanities kids, right, to visualize things and then make it appealing more than anything, right? Because like you were saying before, kids aren't going to learn from someone they don't like. They're not going to engage with material that isn't engaging in itself. You know, and if they're looking at it and it's like PowerPoint 97, they're not going to wear the headset, are they? They're going to, you know, play Snake on their phone or whatever the kids are doing these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, Genshin Impact, I don't know.
Look,
I play that.
also, yeah, the schools don't have the money to get the textbooks to keep up with them. Whereas
Yeah.
schools are still spending huge portions of their budgets on paper that is obsolete just as quick. Because now and so it's just not a sustainable way forward. There's definitely a place for textbooks, but it shouldn't be the core of the school budget.
Yeah, en masse, maybe not.
So
Yeah.
I couldn't end up doing my Dinosaur Highway VR. I haven't quite managed yet, and I'm hoping to circle back around next. Well, it's actually probably in the middle shelf now.
Middle shelf, good.
I'll get to why it's back to the middle shelf. But there was a gas project up there, and there was some native title disputes, and there was some issues up there that prevented me going along there with a professional film crew. It was seen as a political. I wasn't trying to be political, but you know, when things become sensitive, you just have to do what, you know. And I had no project.
Well, put it to the voice. We'll see what happens.
So the new principal, so I'm on to my second principal now. I've been very, very lucky with the principals that I've had. My second principal up in Broome was very supportive of this program and wanted me to keep it going and went, look, I know you need a second project. I know you're really disappointed that this thing has fallen through, and I know how hard you've worked. You even went over to Melbourne. I'm like, twist my arm. You've done everything to rally the troops, so to speak. I've just been given this book called Luster about the pearling history of Broome, which is a big pearl town. Actually, 75% of the world's mother of pearl came from there until World War II.
Yeah,
So-
take that, New York.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it was the place, the pearling place. And so this book had come out, made in conjunction with traditional owners, made in conjunction with the Cygnet Bay Pearl Farm, which is the oldest pearl farm in Australia. And then it was also made with a curatorship program from the West Australian Museum. Would I like to go to the book opening? So I'm like, yeah.
Love a book opening.
I went and spoke to the Pearl Farm owner who supported the research on the book.
Yep.
His name was James Brown. No relation to me. No relation to the singer.
Unfortunate.
No. Fantastic bloke. Really liked the concept of getting that project, which was obviously a baby because it told part of his family's story and something he was very passionate about, into education. And I said to him, well, how would you like to do a virtual reality project on your Pearl Farm site and have our kids come and do that research?
Yeah.
This was before there was no sealed road there. It was like 2 hours, 3 hours on unsealed road.
I love this country.
Yeah, it was amazing. So the support we had from Cygnet Bay was incredible. James put us up there for a week. We went on all these Pearl Farm tours. It was highly subsidised. Had all my Year 8 academic extension kids go out there.
How did you get all this money? Like, I know the money's there, but like...
No, the money actually wasn't really there. I mean, James obviously provided one of the most incredible tourist destinations in the world for our kids. Like, I stayed in a old pearler's house.
Oh.
It was amazing, and it was looking directly out into the, like, on a good day, you feel like you're in Indonesia. You know, that's how far north you are.
Wow.
Because Broome's that far north that when you're at the top of the peninsula, you can see the stars from the northern and southern hemisphere.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible. So over the course of a week, kids got to do a project that was based on interviewing traditional owners, going on the tourist things, doing pearl grading, going out on the boats, like looking at the natural wonders, all of these things. Plus we had a virtual reality film crew with us. So shout out to Bird's Eye Media. They're based in Perth. They actually sent a filmmaker up for a couple of days, and groups of my kids were acting as the directors for this.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It was great.
That's awesome.
It was fantastic. They did everything apart from hold the cameras and edit it together.
Yeah,
and then
because
when
cameras and seawater famously
well, you know,
don't mix.
we just the camera they brought up was $10,000 worth of camera, and they had a drone. They were a professional outfit. Like, they do the VR stuff for Optus Stadium.
Right.
So they did a VR Antarctica documentary that was in the museum.
I'm always surprised. Like, I've seen that. Our
Yeah.
museum is so good now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised when I hear things like that. Global things have come from Perth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's still
Yeah.
surprising. I know we've produced like world-class actors and scientists and everything, right? Like, but it still surprises me.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't.
I feel as though the fact that the ecosystem here for enterprise is so small, it makes it go global quicker.
Kind of
Because
like
the
Iceland,
market-
maybe.
Well,
you know what I mean?
If you
Like-
think about California,
yeah.
or actually any American state,
Mm.
the ecosystems are so much larger. And I saw this firsthand. There are people in the States who are not known out of their own states. And I'm like, wow, if you were in Australia, you would be like the president of teaching. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely astonishingly brilliant.
We would make up awards for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, like
You're the
I
best
became-
Kerry Brown in
Yeah.
the world.
Like, I think I became a better teacher just by hanging around with them at lunch.
Oh, that's
Like,
that's nice.
well, it also made me a little bit fearless. I'm like, well, if they think some of the things that I think are okay, they think they're good, then I'm probably going to do them again. That sort of thing. And, you know, so that kind of made me a bit fearless. But this experience, I thought it was going to be like a capstone, like this is my be-all and end-all. It really wasn't, because the town thought it was great. I got to share this project and present it with my kids at the end of the year at Macquarie University, and we got to present it to David Christian in his university.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Who is he?
He's the professor who actually created Big History
Right.
at Macquarie University. So we got to present our project about Big History through the lens of Broome and the thing that kind of typifies Broome, which is pearling, to David Christian at Macquarie. I took it in January to Seattle and got to put Google Cardboards onto the faces of these teachers from around the world.
Cool.
And onto the education manager, Bill Gates' education manager, who went, this thing is just knockout. Right, this is great.
That's amazing.
But then I thought, well, it is amazing. This is one story. I've got 100 of those stories from Broome that I haven't been told.
And that's just Broome.
And that's just Broome.
Yeah.
And I've been down here for a few years, and there's a dozen stories, despite the fact that I've not had the most productive time down here because, you know, nobody has, because we're just starting to get back into the high expectations of life, and now we're being crushed by, you know, inflation. But relatively speaking,
Where's Gina
there's
right now?
millions of stories that need to be told.
Yeah, you think about that, and then it's like, oh, but then there's Fremantle, and then there's Albany, and then there's thing, and that's just WA, and that's just the coast of WA. Then there's Australia, then there's the world. Yeah. So there's such scope for a project like this.
And for me, it's about agency.
Yeah.
And when it comes to agency,
Student.
it can't be me picking. But in fact, it wouldn't be me picking if it was a commercial entity. This is how I'm coming to a non-for-profit idea.
Cool.
Because I kept in contact with Kingston, and we communicated all through COVID, and he gave me free licenses, and I ran it with my kids in Horsehead, and I had a camera, and we actually used it to make a museum. The parents couldn't come on site through COVID. So we did their Year 7 history project on ancient Rome, and they made like cardboard Colosseums and paper mache Mount Vesuviuses and clay tablets and all these awesome things.
Foam coming out the top.
Yeah, they're all handmade, and they really put their heart and soul into it, but no one could see it.
Yeah.
So what I
So-
did is I said, kids, we're making a virtual museum. They're like, but we've got real things. I'm like, yes, but we're going to photograph the real things and put them in the virtual museum. So we stacked up a bunch of desks in the middle of the room into like a cubicle, and we put a project on each corner of this cubicle, and then
Yeah.
we put the 360 camera in the center.
Yeah.
And each 4 projects was a room in the museum. So the first year I did this,
Did you explain this kind of like Google Maps
like Street View, yeah.
going around like Street View? Yeah.
Yeah.
And stitching things together.
Except the thing, you get some amazing things out of it. So what you get out of it is you don't realise that the kids that were using the Barbie as their, like, one of the kids stole their sister's Barbie and supplied it.
Sorry, is this like a Vesuvius thing?
It was a crucifixion, you know, the whole
Oh,
Roman
actual.
crime and punishment.
Oh my.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then there was, like, you know, the Mount Vesuvius was actually mountain-sized because the camera's this big. So it gives you a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
But it was really good. We got to make this museum. Then I got to teach them how to do the actual programming of it. So we took the photos, because I only had one camera, on my camera. Each one of these photos is 4 projects and 1 room. And we had, I think, 5 rooms in the museum.
The Steam gods must have loved you.
Yeah.
I mean, you're teaching on so many different levels.
Yes. Yeah,
Ticking
it's
so many boxes.
It's all very steamy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't say steam in WA. It's
It's still STEM here.
but it doesn't really matter, because before it was STEM, it was something else.
Yes.
And after it's been steam, stream, spleen, like, there's a whole, you know, the acronym's going to change, but philosophically, it's actually about what I said earlier. It's about the silos and them being kind of irrelevant to the progress that teaching and education needs to take.
It can be. It can be, and you get very special educators like yourself who kind of work around the boundaries of the guidelines of the
Yeah.
curriculum that you're given, and then there are others that, you know, feel the constraint, feel, you know,
Yeah.
tied into the
Look,
boxes that they're
I'm not
given.
saying
And it's just difficult.
I'm not saying there's no place for specialist knowledge, because I couldn't have taught big history without specialist knowledge, because first thing I did was went and found my colleagues who were really good at physics and went, hey, I've got this lesson. How would you like to come in and teach about this one thing? And they're like, yeah.
Cool.
I'm doing a lesson on redshift, or I'm doing a lesson on, like, you know, classification of species. And I'm like, I couldn't teach that. And if I could, I wouldn't do it justice like you did it. Just like I'm going to do better justice to World War II than you would. You might know what's going on, but you're not going to teach it. You know,
Yeah.
specialist
Yeah.
knowledge certainly has a place.
Absolutely.
But the more you can actually integrate those skills, especially with technology and things that are like purely skill-based. There's so many computer courses that are bereft of content.
Okay.
So we teach them with arbitrary content. So instead of teaching them how to make a PowerPoint in humanities, and you have the actual humanities topic, be that World War II or environmental change or whatever,
The Renaissance.
and the
Yeah.
content that they're being assessed on, but the skills they're being assessed on, we'll go make a PowerPoint about cats, because we're only assessing you on, can you change fonts? So it kind of, the kids don't engage with it as well,
Yeah.
which gets me back to technology and why being able to engage with it is so important.
Well, yes, because it is in
Yeah.
everything, so it may as well be a part of
Yeah.
everything.
So my kids not only got to do their Roman project, but they got to learn how to make this project. Then I did a poster competition, and the best poster got the QR code on it, and then I emailed the QR code out to parents. And then they got to walk around or swipe around on their phone the project.
I'm in love.
So that kind of made that a little bit different. So it was at this point that I had the opportunity to do a little bit of consulting on the side. That's the one side of my multifaceted business card.
That's VR for good.
So no, this is
No?
ARD. This is
ARD.
yes, augmented reality digital consulting.
Got it.
Right, so how to add to your education programs using like technology, how to augment them. That was the theory behind
No
it.
pun intended.
No, 100% a pun. But what I've found very, very rapidly was where the money is not necessarily where the agency should be. So we were talking about agency
Yeah.
and the value of being able to tell your story. And because of the way that education is and the disparity between the schools that have and the schools that have not,
Right.
the schools that could afford my services and afford to go and buy 10 camera kits for their school,
Looking in the wrong direction.
they were doing it so that they could put a headset, because you would have seen brochures or websites from private schools or for more wealthy public schools, and the whole project for technology, it's like the poster child for like 2020 STEM, is
Yeah.
a kid wearing virtual reality goggles, looking amazed.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're not necessarily doing anything, but they're just wearing virtual reality goggles, and that's like the poster child for their STEM program.
Yeah.
So those schools that could afford it, that's what they wanted. So they would buy all the camera kits, they would do a little project, they would take a photo opportunity, and then they wouldn't really worry about the end results of the project or the skills that come out of it.
Oh no, the end result for them would be increased enrollments. If they get
Correct.
that,
Correct.
that's the cycle.
Correct.
they're
And
on. Yeah.
that's just the fundamentals of their model.
That's the business model.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now, every single venue on the planet will have a virtual tour in the next 5 years.
Oh, I mean, like they've already been working on getting every library digitized, every museum having its own tours, and then you're right, because
And-
large businesses doing recruitment, they want people to be able to
Yeah.
walk through and go, look at us, started with
Yeah.
big tech and it's
I mean,
moving down.
Obviously, well, it's actually moving down, then it's going to go back up again because it's coming in for things like I'm working on a OC health and safety for virtual reality. So imagine that you're a mining CEO, for example,
Yeah.
and you want to see the workshop in a remote place. WA is obviously a perfect
Oh.
case study for this.
Training is
You
fabulous.
can actually just have, for that and for
Yeah.
pre-startups and all of those things.
Going through, hey, can you spot the hazards?
Yeah, but when
Yeah.
you bring that back to education, 2/3 of work experience kids don't finish the week of work experience because it's not what they thought it was going to be.
Really?
Because how do you tell a kid it is what it is? You, as an adult,
Sure.
go, you're going to do work experience in a bakery. Because
yeah.
you've seen a bakery, I've seen
Yeah.
a bakery. But, like, the 15-year-old child may never have been into a commercial kitchen.
No, because they've got people to bring things to
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
for them.
So we're not really setting them up for success.
No,
Virtual
and-
reality, literally, you could do a taster program where they could be in the kitchen,
That's terrific.
or the workshop, or the salon, or the office.
Or the surgery, or
the everything. So in terms of vocational, it's got incredible applications, and OC health and safety. The reason why I'm telling you this is because there is no university to get the skills for making virtual tours and virtual content. There's programming, if you want to create and program digital assets.
But for who?
Yes, but
Yeah.
that's a programming course.
Yeah.
And one of the strands is creating three-dimensional objects. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about using a camera kit that costs about the same as a phone to make immersive tours that can be edited and updated for real estate. They cost about $1,000 if you're going to buy one.
You know what? That's a huge early adopter, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Every
course.
listing has a
Yeah.
walkthrough.
So that they cost $1,000. So you could put the skills to earn $1,000 a pop in the hands of a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
But we don't.
No.
But there's no qualification for it because there's no university or TAFE course. I'm actually working with Verti to put together some co-design micro-credentials. So when
cool.
my year 7s,
So it's going to become an RTO as well, perhaps.
hopefully,
Great.
that's what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to also get NDIS provider status as well, because I'm looking for as many avenues for the people who need the skills and want to tell their story the opportunity as possible. And
Well-
I know that isn't by going towards a principal and going, pay for this, because
They won't see it.
yeah,
They won't know.
well, it could be the most empathetic principal with their finger on the pulse, but the priorities that they have that are squishing them are like so many.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got so little funds to put on special projects. So you can't have it just come out of a school's one-line budget.
So-
It has to be diverse fundraising. So the only way to do that is to not be a commercial entity and not go to and go, here's a check, buy my services, I in person will do this.
Right. You'll block yourself into doing what works, and what works is a single stream.
Yes.
And then you're a business.
Well, that would mean that
Yeah.
I'm a business. I would be competing with the film company and the likes of Bird's Eye Media, who came out to us and did all of this stuff.
Right.
And,
At once friends, now.
but
foes.
also, they've got 10 years in the industry and they've already made documentaries in Antarctica. That's not what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for student-led and teacher-led projects that tell local stories that can be shared globally.
Now, you talked about the people that need this technology, and you talked about diversity, and I want to maybe switch quickly to how VR for Good is focused, I think, more on developing this technology into a platform that can be used for people with disability, people who aren't kids with a, smooth
Yeah.
career in educational career. They've got disabilities and they've got hurdles, and how you propose this technology can help them.
Well, so inclusion is always been the priority. Kingston and I have always talked about it from the aspect of democratizing the technology.
Ooh.
Yes, making it more financially accessible. Absolutely, making it more accessible from an inclusion point of view for diverse needs within the community.
There's even VR is wonderful because it can even it's even accessible for people who are visually impaired.
Yes.
Just because, well, the immersiveness is a great environment for them to be able to, engage.
Yeah. So it kind of came full circle when I had started doing some consulting. I was still doing some teaching, and I was talking with Verti on the East Coast. And so I've been saying to Kingston, look, this commercial avenue is a struggle because I had achieved some WA STEM grant money in order to get a license for Verti for my school. And I'd managed to get about 2 or 3 teachers in their own time to do the training because we didn't have the PD money for them to have a day off to learn and all. No, the struggles, the general struggles, even when there was a multi-million-dollar opportunity, the pressures in schools they've never been higher.
Yeah.
And so I was saying that this model isn't sustainable. But I think the non-for-profit angle is probably the most versatile angle that will suit more people's needs and will actually spread the technology to the places it needs to go. Because what Verti needs, because the people at Verti are fantastic at technology. They've got some really out-of-the-box programmers. And their digital marketing is world-class. They're not teachers, which is why they really gravitated to my ideas. But I can't be in everyone's classroom. So I want the experience that I had in 2020, where I got my kids to do their little virtual museum. I just wish that I could go back to my classroom in 2015 and go, hey, you're taking your kids to Japan. Take this thing and go down this tour, collect these photos, and get the kids to make the project when they got back.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks,
and
Captain
then
Hindsight.
say that Bird's Eye Media, you can definitely get your drone and do your filming, but I would like my kids to do X, Y, and Z with their stuff as well, and we'll share our portfolio of photos at the end, and it be more of a collaborative project.
I mean, kids' work that exists beyond the fridge door is going to be really, really valuable in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so Kingston and I have co-founded VR for Good with the aim of actually bringing the agency to the places where it matters the most. So you'll see that flip side of my business card has a QR code on it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the process now of making up a brand new website that's going to be able to have some stories. But at the moment, it's an expression of interest.
Are you going to get the kids to make the website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might actually
Outsource
leave
it.
that to the digital marketers. I'm a big fan of getting kids to do the work, but in this case, so what we want to do is get our name around as much as possible and show that what we're doing is offering an opportunity. So go to our webpage, look at the expression of interest, tell us the story, and if we can't fund it, we will collaborate with you on a fundraising grant application process as well.
That's the fabulous thing about
Yeah.
this. It's still quite ground level.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that it doesn't have legs. That doesn't mean that there aren't, like you say, talented and fabulous people behind it with oodles of knowledge and talent themselves. It just means that it's open. It's
Yeah.
open to suggestion.
Yeah.
It's moldable still into multiple avenues.
I'm hoping to do a joint grant proposal with some of the WA Headspace branches.
Cool. Awesome.
That would be great. I would like to look into, because of my connection to Broome
Mhm.
and my interest in teaching Aboriginal perspectives within education.
Mhm.
And by that, I've never meant from an expert position. And that's actually been surveyed as been the number one drawback for teachers in teaching Aboriginal perspectives is fear of doing a disservice and seeming disrespectful.
Yeah.
Whereas I was really
Eggshells.
lucky. Yeah, eggshells.
Yeah.
Walking on eggshells. Whereas I was really lucky. And I started teaching in Broome where it was really, really obvious that I wasn't even an expert on the general stuff in Broome. So I was,
Yeah.
and also that the community was small enough that the education assistants were also town elders and lots of the kids, aunties and mums and things like that. So I could call on very knowledgeable people that were held in very high community regard to come into my classroom and teach some amazing, brilliant stuff.
Yeah. So this
and
is
then
not
go,
you.
oh, by the way, listen to Mr. Brown, which is the kicker at the end that every teacher wants to
That's
hear.
always nice.
Right?
That is nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not looking to impart what you know onto other people. What you're looking for, if I understand correctly, is for other people who know stuff, have their own story, to come to you and say, I want a way to tell this story.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
and
anybody.
a platform in which it can be shared.
Fantastic.
Because my classes have gained a lot from actually being able to have their stories widely shared.
Okay. Look, that's really, really awesome. I'm so excited. I'm totally in love with you. And you've got your website here. We'll put this all up on the website so people can find the QR code and scan it for themselves and go on a mission of discovery. VR for Good is the not-for-profit that you're talking about now that has the expression of interest on this webpage or yet to be webpage.
No, there is a webpage. We're
There is a
we're
webpage.
just building a brand new shiny one that can hold hopefully lots and lots of stories of shared interest and agency from hopefully around the country.
Absolutely. And if you don't want to go to our website in order to get the content because you're awful, they have their own website called VR4Good, but good spelt out VR4GOOD.org. You're an org.
For the number.
Com.
We are an org, and that brings me to the final point because this is hopefully just the beginning. We're aiming to launch VR for Good in the US probably by mid next year,
Excellent.
because that way we can actually connect the stories between the two countries, which was where my whole journey started.
Yeah. Anyone who gets the opportunity, the privilege to talk to you about this project is going to see great things coming forward in the future. Hayden Brown, thank you for joining us here.
All right.
Abigail. Really
Actually,
appreciate
before
it.
you go, do you have any other social media, any type of thing you want to let us know about? Because we do have only the VR for Good on the site. So is there anything else that you want us to let the viewers know about, listeners to know about, that they might be interested in exploring about anything that you told us today?
I can actually send you a link for the first VR project that I did, which was that Luster project, which is actually on YouTube.
Great.
I'd love for millions of people to see that.
Yeah.
And I will give you the URL for the Verti website as well, which is that's also going to be expanded as we attach a lot more curriculum projects to it as well.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well.